Adventures in Retouching with Rob DiCaterino.
Welcome to Adventures in Retouching. I'm Rob DiCaterino, and today I'm joined by my colleague and friend and just amazing retoucher and visual artist, John Zampetti. John, welcome to Adventures in Retouching.
Thanks a lot, Rob. Thanks a lot for the kind intro, and happy to be here.
John, where are you?
So I am in Sutton, which is in South London in the UK. And classic British summertime, it's like 19 degrees outside and it's grey and it's raining. So.
I am in New Jersey in the US.
Cool.
And like classic New Jersey summer, it's almost 100 degrees Fahrenheit and humid, and I'm sitting here outside. The birds are chirping. I'm sure there'll be lawnmowers and.
Rub it in, why don't you? No, it looks amazing, where you are.
Thank you. John, before we jump in, can I ask, what is the whole pandemic quarantine situation where you are?
I guess like a lot of the world, it's only been recently that the economy has started to kind of open back up. So I think officially, like today, it was like gyms and swimming pools and stuff were allowed to open for the first time since our lockdown here in the UK. And it's like just recently the government have made the wearing of face masks compulsory in stores and stuff. But I don't know what it's been like there in the US, but the whole face mask thing the government have been so back and forth on it and really unclear on it the whole time. And it's only just now they're saying, you must wear them or face a fine. How about there in the US?
Yeah, it sounds like a similar situation where depending on which state that people live in, some states mandated the face mask, some states it's recommended, but it's not mandatory. But socially, it seems like there's more, I don't know if pressure is the right word, but it's like, please wear a mask when you go out and to a store or a crowded area and company like photo studios are still struggling at the moment, and like retail companies and stuff. So because the numbers go up and they go back down, then things open, then they go back up again, and so it's like
I guess it's going to be a while before we really see the kind of full impact. The economic impact and stuff. It's going to take some time to recover and stuff. But fingers crossed.
So you know what, John? Let's jump in.
Mm-hmm.
I want to start by asking you what is maybe an obvious question, but and I have my notes here.
Sure.
But let's start off with, what is retouching? What does the word retouching mean to you?
Okay, so I would say for me, retouching is one element of the production process. So it's kind of one facet to something that is multifaceted. So the chances are, unless you happen to be a photographer that does their own retouching, in which case you're maybe more of a one-person show, the chances are, as a retoucher, when you're given images to work on, there's already been a lot of people that have worked on the project up to that point. So to take like a fashion shoot, for example, in the pre-production sort of stage of it, they're choosing maybe the products they're going to show off, like that they're going to select models, they're going to choose a location, and then at the point of actually doing the shoot, there's a photographer, potentially an art director. If they need to build a set, there's a set designer. So for me, as I said, it's one element of the process, and so I think it's important to remind ourselves that when it gets to the retoucher, there's already been a ton of involvement from lots of different people. So, and I say that because I think the temptation, certainly for when you start as a retoucher, you think, this is my opportunity to put my stamp on the images and I'm going to show off what I can do. But I think over time, as you get more experience, you realize that's not really the case. You're there to do your one piece of the process, and you're there to maybe give it that final push. And maybe even after you've worked on it, there's a copywriter who might be putting an article together for the images. It might be getting printed, so there's a print team that maybe takes the images after that. It might be an art worker that's adding graphics. So I think, yeah, retouching for me is just, it's one element of the entire process. And yeah, and oftentimes obviously you're given, you know, a set of instructions and whatever. So I think that's kind of where it's really distinguished from, like, say, like a graphic designer or an artworker, maybe somebody who has that bit more control over the sort of from the inception to the finished product. Whereas, you know, as a retoucher, you're kind of there as it's a kind of a team effort, and you're there to kind of do your bit towards the project. So
yeah, and you know what, when we're working in a studio for a brand, let's say, there's a company look and feel, there's an aesthetic, there's a style that the photographer, the stylist, the retoucher, the writer has to adhere to. So it's not just like, I'm a retoucher, I'm going to go in and show them what I'm made of, I'm going to go in and dazzle them with my crazy retouching skills. Like, no, here's the style guide, here's the brand guide. You have 2 days to learn that style guide and get up to speed. That's why you're hired, not to come in and dazzle me with how much you transformed the image.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So John, you know what, can you take a couple minutes and just walk me through your background, maybe your education and your work experience?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no problem. So where to start? So I guess like a lot of people that get into like a creative industry, obviously with us with retouching, I used to love drawing and sketching and stuff growing up, and by far and away art was always my favorite subject at school, and then I went on to do a degree in fine art, and I'm still not entirely sure what possessed me to do a fine art degree, because to say it kind of sounds like a worthless thing, but I think at the time I picked to do a fine art degree because I wasn't genuinely sure what I wanted to do for a job, but I knew I wanted to do something kind of creative. So I spent the 3 years of the degree really just kind of playing around with loads of different mediums. So I think the first year I was doing lots of life drawing and painting and stuff, quite traditional stuff. And then by year 2 I was trying out photography, and by year 3 I was trying out video and video editing. So I really wanted to just have a go at kind of as much as I could. And I think it was probably at university or college, you'd say, that I think got to have a little play with Photoshop and was first kind of exposed to Photoshop. But certainly at that time, I didn't know anything about retouching. I didn't know retouching was even a thing. And then I'll be totally honest, after I graduated, I spent a good few years just kind of bumming around, and I was working in retail. I was working at a Blockbuster Video, which shows my age. And it got to this point when I thought, if I don't really kind of, start to try and find something, I'm just going to end up working in retail forever, which is just, it's just not, deep down isn't what I wanted, So, but by that point, because I'd spent a few years after graduating, I didn't obviously have much experience. So I thought maybe a good idea to try and get some opportunities would be to apply for internships. So I'm going back to, this would have been around 2005, 2006, I think this would have been. So I just started applying for a ton of internships and apprenticeship stuff, where I was basically offering to work for free for just short-term things, 1 month here, 2 months there. And I was lucky enough to get a 1-month internship with this agency in London called Famous Pictures. And they were this small agency that specialized in selling celebrity photos and interviews to magazines and newspapers. And so what they needed interns to come in and do was, they had a huge archive of slides, and it was all these really interesting, like really old, interesting slides of like red carpet stuff. So there was tons of award ceremony stuff. So they needed people to come in for a month at a time, scan these things in, and just clean them up in Photoshop. And I think that was the kind of light bulb moment for me when I thought, oh man, this is potentially something that you can make a living doing. And even though it sounds really repetitive, it was 1 month solid of just scanning slides and cleaning them up. But it just blew my mind. I thought, I'm sitting here on Photoshop kind of day in, day out, and this is a job. There's other people in the studio doing that as a full-time job. So, and then at the end of that 1 month, I was lucky that someone had just given their notice to leave. So a vacancy opened up, and they offered me like a role as, I think the role was picture editor at the time. So the focus of the job was to sell the shots. It wasn't like cleaning up the shots was just secondary, really. The main focus was actually trying to sell these shots, to get them used by to sell them to magazines and stuff. And then I think I stayed there for about three or so years maybe. And that's when I saw, I think it was like a level 1 or a junior retouching role available at Net-a-Porter in London. Yeah, I was lucky enough to get called in for an interview and a retouch test, and I was really nervous about the retouch test. And I remember I think I'd read recently about this hidden away feature called match color. I don't know if you've ever used the match color. It's really tucked away in Photoshop. I think it's a really, really old feature. And I remember part of the retouch test at Net-a-Porter was to match the color of like one dress to another dress. And I thought, yeah, I'm just going to blow their minds and I'm going to use match color. And I crashed the machine. And I just thought, this is a disaster. I'm obviously not going to get the job, but I was apologetic and I said, do you mind me starting the test again? And they were kind enough to let me start again. And yeah, I was lucky enough to get the job, which was amazing. And then I ended up, staying there for 5 years and working my way up. Fortunate enough to get a couple of promotions through the time that I was there. And then around about 2014, I think it was, I made the decision to move to a smaller studio because I felt like I just still had so much I could learn. And as much as I love the kind of the e-com side of it, and I think every retoucher should probably have some time doing e-com because it gets you used to kind of working quickly and making decisions quickly. And you get to work with, a big group of amazing people who you're, sharing tips and techniques and knowledge and stuff. But I made the call anyway in 2014 and I went to a small studio called the Shoemaker's Elves, and they did more kind of fashion and beauty. So I was there for about 1.5 years, and that was a great experience, and I learned a ton of stuff. And that was the first time I think doing it was just non-stop skin work, so loads of dodging and burning, loads of stuff, fashion, editorials and stuff, and a little bit of advertising work as well. And then because I'd stayed in touch with the guys at Net-a-Porter, and then I found out one of the team leaders was leaving on a maternity leave, and I think I found out at that point they'd switched to a 4-day week. And around about, so this is going to I hope this doesn't get too convoluted, but at this point I'd started to teach myself CGI. And because I'd heard that they were doing a 4-day week and they asked if I'd be interested in coming back for a year, I thought that might be a perfect opportunity to come back for a year to somewhere that I loved working anyway, and also have a day spare kind of each week to focus on learning CGI. So then, about 1 year later, I left to go to another place called Hangar 7, and I was there for about 1.5 years, and I got to do they were looking for someone to come in as a retoucher / CGI artist, so I got to do some CG on some, they did a lot of drinks retouching, so Johnny Walker and whiskey and vodka and Ciroc vodka, that kind of thing. I did a lot of those campaigns, and then I left there to go to a place called Saddington Baines, which did a lot of car and automotive stuff. So I was there for about 1 year, and this brings me up to about October last year when I decided it's time to just go freelance. I've been thinking about it for a long time, and I just took the plunge and I went freelance. And yeah, I've been freelancing sort of from then to now, and even with obviously what's gone on and there's a lot of uncertainty and stuff this year, I've been really lucky enough to get quite regular work from a handful of clients. So touch wood, it's working out okay so far.
That's great. So can I ask, what kind of freelance work are you getting the past, let's say, 6 months?
I've been mainly working on automotive stuff, and the company I'm working with, the cars are predominantly done in CGI. So I guess they get CAD data from the manufacturer. So whatever the make of car, they get the 3D data. So for the longest time, I always used to assume that just someone at a studio would model cars. But I think nowadays, I think for most sort of patents and products and cars, the manufacturer normally has like CAD data. So the 3D model kind of normally exists at the point when something's manufactured. So that those models go to like a studio, and then I guess obviously there's a lot of pre-production where they say, we're going to render the car, but we know it's going to go in this kind of an environment. So they normally send teams to kind of locations to shoot what are called HDRIs, like high dynamic range images. So they can shoot like a big panorama of where they want the car to go. And then those are used to light the car, so the reflections then match the location shoot. So anyway, but I've been doing primarily retouching for those guys. So it's normally a case of you get the render of the car, which obviously looks super, too clean and kind of too artificial, and then it's almost the reverse of like it's almost the reverse of like skin work, where you're taking typical product photography, where you start with something that needs cleaning up. In the case of CGI retouching, you start with something that looks too perfect, and you have to kind of add those imperfections and make it look more photographic with with grain and with if there's, if it's a sunny shot and you want flares on coming off of parts of the car, going in and kind of adding those in the retouch process. And that, it's been cool because it's made me realize how looking at kind of references is so important. It almost doesn't matter how senior you get and how accomplished you get. I still, I've seen people that have been doing car work their whole life, and they still check references, looking at photos of cars and how, like actual photographs of, the way that a car like shines and glints in the sun and that kind of thing. So not just totally trying to do it kind of off the top of your head, but actually always going back to good references and stuff, so that it's not complete guesswork when it comes to that compositing and retouching stage.
So yeah, absolutely. It's so important to use reference. I mean, even in skin retouching, even in product retouching, and a company can, maybe a cosmetic company wants to refresh their website, their e-com website, and they're deciding what creative direction to go in. They're referencing other top websites, other top brands. And so yeah, you have to reference that. That's a really good point. So John, why Photoshop? What is it about retouching that speaks to you or fascinates you, or just why not photography? Why not video edit?
I guess it maybe goes back to, when I was young and I used to really enjoy just kind of, I was happy to just sit quietly and kind of get on with drawing something. So the thought of maybe, I don't know, the idea of being like a photographer who kind of goes here, there and everywhere and sets up equipment and deals with models, that sounds like a lot of hassle to me. I'm more than happy just sitting quietly, or sitting and talking with colleagues and listening to music and stuff. That I just find that really appealing. And I guess the other thing as well is that I think I knew kind of early on that I'm not necessarily one for kind of creative ideas. I think I quite like that. It's been someone else. It's been an art director that's kind of come up with the idea for a shoot. And even though your opinion may be valued, and they may ask the retoucher, if we want to achieve this, what do you think and stuff. And but a lot of the time you're there to kind of do your piece. Whereas the thought of somebody, if I was say a graphic designer, the thought of somebody coming to me and saying, we want a logo and we want it to say this, and give us some ideas, that just absolutely just terrifies me. It doesn't feel that natural to me to just be an ideas person who sits and goes, how about this look, how about this color grade. I'm much happier just kind of coming in and doing something that's where a lot of people are already involved.
What are your go-to favorite actual tools in Photoshop?
I guess the your typical path tool, quick selection wand, clone brush, heel brush. I guess those are the kind of fundamentals that get you pretty far with a retouch. So I guess those are the ones I probably couldn't live without. But in terms of the one tool that I absolutely love for, there's always times when someone says, we've shot this, I don't know, this product, and it's in red, but it needs to be white or cream, like a really ridiculous, huge swing in color. And there have been times when I've heard people say, oh no, we can't do that, we have to reshoot. And I always think, no, actually, the gradient map is an absolute lifesaver for those big swings in color, and it gives you just such fine control. And it still surprises me sometimes over the years to talk to retouchers who kind of don't really use it, or don't show much interest in it, because I just think it's such an amazing tool. And even though you can do a really big sort of swing, like even really from like black to white, white to black of on a product or a garment or something, and sometimes you end up with something that looks a little bit on the flat side, but then you can just go ahead and maybe add some channel selections and curves and stuff to just pump a bit of shape back in. But I think, the gradient map I couldn't live without. I think it's just such an awesome adjustment layer. And challenge yourself to do a big color, take a shot of something and say, right, can I change this, this black bag into a yellow bag, like handbag, or whatever it is. Just challenge yourself and see what the gradient map can do. And I guarantee if you end up getting a job as a retoucher and in, at some point a big color shift is needed, you can just say, I'm the man or woman to do that for you. So, yeah.
Exactly. What are your main apps that you use for 3D modeling and 3D work?
So the main one I use is Cinema 4D, which I've probably been learning on and off for like 5-6 years, maybe a little bit longer, which I love. And the reason I chose Cinema 4D was because after doing at the time I was doing some research into learning maybe one of the big 3D packages. So I guess out of Maya's obviously one of the kind of real industry standard ones for most VFX and stuff. 3ds Max, which I think is mainly for architectural stuff. I think is PC only, maybe. And then Cinema 4D at the time I think was kind of a much newer piece of software, but one that was getting a lot of attention. And I think from doing some research online at the time, loads of people on forums and stuff were saying, if you want something with the sort of the shallowest learning curve, everyone was just talking about Cinema 4D and saying that's the one that you can kind of pick up, especially if you've come from Photoshop. And there's a plugin I use called Octane, which is a render engine. And the reason I use that is because it allows you to render from your graphics card rather than the processor. And it's kind of more recent technology that allows you to just render things way, way faster. I think rendering from the CPU historically has always just been much, much slower. And so we seem to be moving towards rendering from the graphics card, the GPU, rather than the CPU. So that's why I use that as well. But yeah, I'd say those are the two main ones: Cinema 4D with Octane as a plugin.
John, what types of retouching or categories of retouching do you prefer and why?
I think it's probably easier for me to say what I dislike, my least favorite, which I have to say is probably hair retouching. I've never been there was when I went to the Shoemakers Elves, actually, so around about 2014, 2015, there was this big job we did for Wella, like I don't know if Wella's a product that's sold much in the US, but it's like hair mousse and like a range of hair products. And there was a big shoot we kind of did for them, and it was just these super, super high res shots of like a couple of models, and it obviously was meant to be showing off the kind of the hair and the hair products. So it was just weeks and weeks and weeks just retouching hair, and I just remember thinking I never want to do this ever again. It was just, I found it quite soul crushing. Just because it's like climbing a mountain. It's kind of and never feeling like you're seeing the top until you just the deadline arrives and it's like, right, there's probably more we can do, but the hair's looking good enough. It's just how far do you go with just cleaning like fly away stray hairs and stuff. So that's probably the type of retouching I prefer least. But then in terms of the rest, as I was talking to you about earlier, I've really enjoyed automotive stuff, and I've enjoyed doing projects that have involved compositing elements together. I found kind of a lot of new challenges in that over the last couple of years. But then I imagine if I was to now do some skin retouching, I'd probably be really rusty at it. So I definitely wouldn't mind getting the chance to do some skin stuff at some point soon. So.
And do you prefer the more fast-paced, instant gratification style of e-commerce retouching, or do you prefer the more slower-paced, meticulous editorial campaign style retouching?
Yeah, I think probably slightly the latter. So as much as I love the time that I spent in an e-com studio, and I learned tons and I met tons of amazing people. And the one thing I will say in favor of that is I did really like how structured things felt. And the chances are when you work for a big e-com team, you get all the perks of working for probably somewhere that's quite, dynamic, and you meet lots of interesting people, and it's probably companies that are reinvesting a lot into training and that kind of stuff. So in that regard, I did love the time I spent working at an e-com studio. And also the likelihood is nobody's going to say to you, right, we will need to stay till 10 o'clock or midnight tonight to finish this. That probably almost never happens, really, certainly not in the retouch team. Things are managed in such a way that we know we have, this many products to do, and we need our deadline for upload, is this time on this day, and it's kind of the same every week. You've got a style guide that you will kind of like need to stick to and stuff. So it can be like a really well-oiled machine. Whereas I think when you're working for a studio and you're working maybe for several different clients, just curveballs can come at you all the time. You can think we've agreed this deadline with the client, and then suddenly the day before the client says, oh, actually we need that, just suddenly just throw a spanner in the works, and it's like, right, well, it looks like we're all going to be, we're going to be pulling all-nighters to get it done. So that side of it I definitely don't enjoy as much, and that frustrates me a lot. So, but I'd say in terms of the working on the shots, I do really like having someone saying, here's a shot, and the client wants to see the kind of first round of it in like 3 days, and just having 3 days to really just kind of work up a shot. But particularly stuff that, these days it seems like clients just want ever increasing far. You know, they want a 10K shot, they want a 15K shot. And if somebody wants something and the deliverable is going to be 15,000 pixels, you know, you can't rush something like that, because I mean, Photoshop's probably not going to, you know, allow you to kind of work on it with any amount of speed anyway, because it's just going to be, you know, probably crippling your machine working on it and stuff. So so I'd say, yeah, if I had to pick, it's probably getting the time to kind of work on like a nice something for advertising, something for, you know, an editorial feature. That, yeah.
How have you evolved as a retoucher, John? And what helped you in that evolution?
So I'd say probably I guess the thing that's helped me the most just over the years is just working with some amazing people, and working with people that are very open and willing to share the knowledge that they know, and people who've been really easygoing about, because I'm someone who I like to ask a lot of questions, especially when I'm starting out with something and I'm not entirely sure. I don't like to be someone that just sits and tries to figure things out. I'd much rather just ask as many questions as I feel I need to until I get it, and I know that I'm doing what I need to be doing. And I think I've been lucky enough to work with a lot of people that are supportive and happy to kind of give feedback and happy to stop what they're doing for a moment to come and help me with a question and stuff. So I think probably, yeah, by far and away, the thing that's helped me over the years is just, yeah, amazing colleagues. And I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned from going from sort of like a junior to now like a freelancer over the years is I don't think you can go too far wrong. And I think this is a hard thing for someone that is a junior level, just starting out. It's, you know, I think you need to kind of overwork stuff and you need to do some Photoshop disasters along the way. There's just no getting around it to kind of gain experience. But I think one of the main lessons, I think, is learning to do stuff with some subtlety and using some restraint. It's always going to serve you really well. And when I was at the Shoemaker's Elves studio, around about 2014, 2015, the boss there, who was amazing, a woman, Belinda, I remember she said to me, I've always remembered this, and I think I've quoted it at a lot of people. She said, it's always better that a client asks you to do more than to restore, which just makes so much sense. I mean, if you overwork something and then you deliver it and the client says, well, we've gone way too far here with the skin or whatever, then how do it's probably not about turning stuff on, you know, putting opacities on stuff. You're probably going to have to literally strip layers of retouching away and go again. So if you work something up gradually and you give it to a client and it's slightly underworked, then all they can ever ask you to do is go slightly further. And I think not only does that make sense, I think artistically, but I think it makes good business sense as well, because why would you ever want to do more work, then undo it and then redo the work? Especially if you're not going to get paid anymore, you know. So if you happen to be someone that goes freelance or someone who maybe starts up your own studio one day, yeah, I think the aim should be, let's try and deliver something that's kind of done with restraint and with subtlety, and give something to the client that they can ask us to push a bit further, rather than risk just giving something that's over retouched that we then need to kind of figure out how we're going to fix or maybe start again.
For someone just starting out, it might seem counterintuitive, like, no, I'm the retoucher, I'm supposed to be transforming the image and wow, look at how night and day, look at my before and after, I really retouched the heck out of this image.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, it's like you don't want it to look like the image has been retouched the heck out of. You want it to look like nothing's been done at all. And that's where the expertise comes in, is you've spent however many minutes, in some cases however many hours on this image, and it looks like nothing's been done at all. That's the trick.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Yeah, it's leave no trace. Absolutely. And I think there's some parallels there with good CGI and good VFX in movies. I mean, we've all seen awful CGI and we've all seen great CGI, and these days, especially, I mean, TV shows now, the budgets they have for CG, where they do these big set extensions, and you would never know. You just think you're watching something that's been filmed on a location, and as it turns out, they've actually kind of filled out loads of extras, and they've painted this out, put trees there, whatever it is, you know. You see the behind the scenes on a lot of modern TV shows, and you think, well, I didn't even realize there was VFX in the shot that I was watching. And I think, it should be the same philosophy with retouch. It shouldn't call any attention to itself.
Do you ever go back and just re-look at old work, and if so, how do you react to it?
the handful of times that I have, yeah, I've been like really shocked to just kind of have, you know, something that my younger self thought was, you know, thought looked fine and thought was completely, you know, satisfactory. And you know, I look at it, you know, now and think, oh God, I can't believe, yeah, like the flaws that I can see now and stuff. So I guess that's always a good thing. They always say, there's a problem if you look back at old work and you're happy with it, because it probably means that your eye hasn't developed, you know, your eye and your taste hasn't kind of changed. So I think it's probably a good sign if you look back and you're embarrassed by old work. I mean, there was actually one, I think it was when I was trying to get into automotive stuff, and I actually tried to render a car myself and retouch it into a shot. And at the time, I was really, I think this isn't even going back that far, like about 4 years ago or something. And I thought, yeah, this looks great. And I think I saw that the other day, and it looked like it looked like a child had done it. It was just absolutely awful. Like the problems I could see with the lighting just doesn't fit. The tonally, it's, you know, the background, like the shadows and the highlights are just totally off compared with the car. Yeah, it was, so yeah, and that wasn't even that long ago. So yeah, so every day is a learning day. I think, yeah, never too old to learn.
That's true. Hey, you know what? I remind myself, everybody has to start somewhere. And, you know, I have to remind myself, like if I'm trying to learn, when I was learning video editing, or if you know, when the day comes, I'm learning how to do 3D modeling. I already know, I've already made peace with the fact that I'm going to have no idea what I'm doing. The work is going to look terrible, but I can't skip steps, you know, like the old Seinfeld episode. He's a step skipper. You can't skip that. You have to go through that step, get the childish, horrendous work out of the way so that the good stuff can come. So it's just part of the process.
Yeah, 100%. I think there's a proverb or a saying which is like, you can't be the master unless you're prepared to be the fool. So yeah, you have to be foolish, yeah, for a good long while, and you have to be self-conscious and kind of hate what you're doing and have loads of doubts. But you have to, yeah, that's I'm sure with any skill, yeah, to get through to a place where you're confident and you're maybe starting to produce work that you're proud of and happy with. Yeah, you have to go through maybe some uncomfortable times to get there.
So on the subject of evolving and being the fool first in order to become the master, how do you know when you've become a good retoucher?
Inherent within the role is like a regular kind of feedback system. So soon, you know, somewhere along the road to delivering something, someone's going to feedback to you, whether it's, you know, a senior retoucher, a manager, or the client themselves. You're going to be getting regular feedback. So just paying attention to that. And I don't know how it is for you, Rob. I almost see it as a bit of a mental checklist when you start something. It's like, what are the things that I know that in our industry, these are the things that are kind of a client kind of always spots, or a manager kind of always spots. It's if it's a product that you're selling, or a car, whatever it is, it's making the car look good and knocking away kind of anything that's distracting from that. Where do we want the viewer's eye to be? So oftentimes it's the same kind of things that get asked for. But yes, so I would say, you know, when you're a good retoucher, because hopefully your markups get lighter and lighter. There's less and less that you need to be told to kind of look out for. And it's, I think often it's at that point when you're kind of working on stuff and you're getting little to no feedback from, you know, wherever the feedback's coming from. That's normally the point at which someone says, oh, you know, they're probably in line for a promotion, or if there's a chance for like a middleweight role where they can take on additional responsibility, maybe training others.
Are there certain types of personalities that are, or temperaments or personality traits that are better suited to being a retoucher? Are there certain types of personalities that aren't suited for being a retoucher?
A lot of the retouchers I've met over the years have been very relaxed, chilled out people. I think if you're someone that's maybe a bit on the hyperactive side, or you're someone that just needs a ton of stimulation from the job that you do, and you need to be moving around and needs to be more active, then sadly retouching is probably not for you, because you're going to have to, it lends itself more to people that are patient, and it's also not particularly glamorous. You probably won't be, it'll probably be almost everybody's name attached to the project except yours that gets added to the credits. But that said, I think you still get the buzz when you see maybe something out there that you've worked on and it's on a billboard or in a magazine or something like that, or on a website and and it's been published. There is a buzz to that, and you can just be happy that that was something that you were involved in. I would say, yeah, I guess the temperaments that don't. I think you need to be happy with being sedentary and you're going to be sat a lot in front of a screen in the dark. So I think going in, you should know that definitely. And if you don't mind those things and you are chilled and you want to just sit and have a laugh with some good people and listen to some music and work on some interesting stuff, then that, I think, yeah, those are the people that could be retouchers.
John, what's your experience with clients? Like even if you're working in-house, you're serving the in-house client, or you're working at a studio or an agency where you're serving external clients. What's your experience with clients who may be a little bit more on the difficult side or high maintenance side? Like the client wants all the skin to look this way, and so you go in and you do it, and then 2 weeks later, like, why does the skin look like this? It needs to look like this. And you're like, but you said 2 weeks. So like clients who change their mind or just difficult or just never pleased. What's your experience with that, and how do you handle those situations?
I guess I try my best to try and manage expectation. I don't try and overpromise anything. I don't think it doesn't help anybody by saying, yeah, sure, we can do that, even though secretly you're thinking this is impossible. We're never going to do it in the time. I think if somebody says we need this, we need this done and it needs to be done yesterday, you have to say, well, I don't know, this takes time. This is what's realistic. And I think probably the best thing you can do is just try and give options. Really, if someone's being really difficult, you can say, look, this is kind of how long this takes. I think realistically we can do this in this time frame, or if you're happier to maybe we can sort of work something up less, but it can be done quicker, and kind of then you're kind of giving them options to come back and say, right, we've given them a couple of options and they can pick A or B. But I think certainly, especially if you're a freelancer, you don't want to be burning bridges. You don't want to be. I suppose you could think to yourself, if a client's been really, really difficult and you manage to get the job done, it might be that you just choose not to work with. You choose not to just take them up on booking and booking you anymore. But I would say, oftentimes if you're in a studio, there's probably going to be some sort of a buffer between you and the client. There's one. I'm not going to say who the brand was or who the client was, but it was this big campaign, and it was just an absolute nightmare. And we were up till like 2 a.m. a few times just trying to. And what had happened was they wanted this really glittery, sparkly background. So they wanted it to be like they wanted this. I think they kept calling it electric shimmer. We want the background to have an electric shimmer. You just hear these terms sometimes in a job, and they'll haunt you for the rest of your life. I'll never forget that. And they said that there was these cufflinks shot on this gold powder or dust on the day when they did the shoot. And I think the problem was they just weren't happy with the result, but there's no doing the shoot again because the shoot's been done. There's no budget to do the shoot again. So it just falls on Retouch to try and find a way to kind of salvage. And even though we talked a lot about the retoucher, going in and leaving no trace, unfortunately, you do get those nightmare jobs sometimes where it is a salvage mission and you're just trying to get in there and save these shots because there's no going back and taking them again. So the photographer does what they can on the day with they're given certain direction, they're given certain props and stuff, and that's that. And just sadly, sometimes the shots just haven't worked out, and then Retouch have to kind of take the brunt there at the end and pull those late nights to try and deliver something that the client's happy with. So, in fact, I remember one of the things they said, we worked several nights in a row, and I think we showed them something, and all they said was, "Yeah, I think we're starting to turn the corner." That was kind of their feedback, and you think that says that still that doesn't tell us that you're happy. It sort of suggests that we're going kind of in the right direction, but it certainly doesn't give us any indication whether we're nearly there. I don't know. So that they were just a nightmare. But there's only been a couple of occasions like that. Most of the time, if you're working with people that know what they're doing and stuff, it's just a joy, really. If you're working with an art director that knows what they're talking about and clients that have dealt with retouchers a lot, then hopefully you won't get too many of those situations. I find, in fact, it's normally the clients that are kind of, they're paying the least, like they're getting like a really budget kind of price for something. Maybe you're working for a studio and they've just won a new client and the price is quite reasonable, And they're normally the ones that want the moon and the earth and, the moon and the sun and the stars kind of thing. It's normally the clients that they've done it a load of times. They're happy to kind of throw the money that it needs. And they're normally the ones that it's just kind of smooth sailing. And it's normally the clients, that are kind of paying the least that want the most.
John, for those people who are just starting out, what are things they don't have to worry about yet? You're just starting out. If you can master these X number of concepts and tools, man, you're off to a really strong start.
As a retoucher, you're going to need to clean stuff up. So you're going to need to kind of remove, dust and hair and just, things that weren't necessary, things that they couldn't necessarily clean up on the shoot, or just stuff that's only obvious when you shoot it at high res. So absolutely cloning and healing, getting really practiced with those tools, learning to clean stuff up nicely, hopefully to the point where it's just you can't tell it's been touched, and getting good at cutting things out, because again, chances are you'll either need to cut something out from a background, or you'll just need to make a good enough selection of it because you need to maybe specifically zone in and change the color or the tone or whatever of a specific part of an image. So getting good at cleaning up, and I think getting good at making selections. So whether that's with, I guess, again, just the heavy hitters, your pen tool, your wands, your quick selection. I think if you going from zero to making a start as a retoucher, if you can cut stuff out and you can clean stuff up, then you can probably get paid by someone to do those things. And then later on, the color theory and adjustment layers and curves especially is obviously like a whole thing, big topic on its own. All that stuff I think can come maybe slightly later. I love it when you sort of sit with someone who they're just starting out and they've managed to kind of, even though they haven't worked at any companies yet doing retouching professionally, they've managed through, whether it's through their own social circle or through their own network, they've managed to kind of find these opportunities. Like I'm sure like over the years, there's been people that have said, oh, I've got a friend and he was starting up his own like clothing line. He's had all these products and I help him to shoot them and I cut them out. I think that's being proactive, and that's really trying to sort of find and create opportunities to practice and to start creating a portfolio. So I love it when I see kind of some of those really just sort of proactive choices that people have made to start creating work before they've managed to get kind of a foothold and get into a company to start. So
John, what problems do you encounter most as a retoucher? What things frustrate you as a retoucher? Or like, I don't know, like just what are some common things that pop up that just hinder the retouching process or frustrate?
Right. So I'd say probably most of the problems that I've ever faced, where things just get really frustrating, it's normally down to like a communication issue, I would say. So it's where maybe the brief's been maybe interpreted wrong or something, and we reach a situation where we're near the deadline and the client's not happy, that kind of thing. Even though that doesn't come along too often, I'd say those kind of communication breakdowns can cause problems. So and actually something that was told to me years ago by someone that was senior to me, they said, and I always thought this was a really interesting way of looking at it. They said the kind of gap between a middleweight and a senior retoucher, the jump from middleweight to senior shouldn't really be too big in terms of skill level. Really, the thing that separates a senior from a middleweight is dealing with clients and knowing how to interpret the brief. And I always thought that was quite an interesting way to see the separation between those two roles, because surely by the time someone's a middleweight, their skill level is really good. They really know their way around Photoshop, and they can take care of most retouching challenges. But it's kind of that final kind of transition to get to the senior level. It's more kind of maybe dealing with other heads of departments. It's going to meetings. It's dealing maybe with the client, dealing with the producer. A brief comes in and you're there to kind of try and make sense of it and make sure that you and the client are on the same page. Like those are the skills that kind of separate really the middleweight. And the middleweight gets kind of left to just do the work, and they don't have to deal with the stress of that stuff. And the other thing that I guess the thing that just really bugs me is and I'm sure you have over the years, you meet sort of some art directors and stuff, like people that they've kind of really, I don't know, it's like they think we're saving lives. It's like we need to understand, okay, we're retouching, we're working on images, and of course we can be proud to do what we do and try and do the best we can, and and love imagery and love the technical side of it, like Photoshop. But come on, like we're not we're not curing cancer here. This is not, you know, some people sort of, I think, really buy into, you know, you get some people that get to a role and they just really buy into the jargon. They love like just throwing terms around, and that bugs me a lot as well. I've heard some art directors say some crazy stuff over the years where I just think, just come on, let's just talk plain English and let's get this done. And if I can just digress for a minute, I'll just tell you one thing that happened one time. We were working on a drinks brand. It was like a whiskey, I think, and it was being the team had been the photographer and the rest of the team had gone to, I think it was like Barcelona, and they were shooting this whiskey on a rooftop, and there was like, you know, the red brick buildings in the background, like really beautiful shot, and then obviously the shots come in to retouch to work on, and the art director wanted to come in and sit with the guy that was retouching it to kind of, you know, obviously give feedback as we went along. And it wasn't me, thankfully, that the guy was sat with. He was sat with one of my colleagues, and he actually said, yeah, I think we need to make the sky a bit more Northern European. And I just thought, what the heck, what does that mean? I don't know what you mean. You probably don't know what you mean. Like, do you want it more cyan? Do you want it like warmer, cooler? Do you want it darker? Like, just come on, let's like get over ourselves here and just, yeah. So that, in terms of things like that, frustrate me as well.
Please remember, we're retouchers. We're very literal people. You have to, like you said, you have to tell us, no, don't tell me I want a more European sky. I don't know I'm literal. You have to tell me, do you want a more saturated sky? Do you want it to look like sunset? Do you want me to comp in clouds? Do you want no clouds? Do you want... So retouchers, in my experience, are very literal people. We know numbers, we know pixel dimensions and resolutions and aspect ratios and tones and, and things like that. When you're marking up an image or you're giving feedback or notes, please be as literal and specific as possible, because that really helps us do our job more efficiently, and it just sets up a retoucher for success from the beginning.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And I certainly don't want to paint art directors in a bad light. I mean, I've met some amazing art directors who really know their stuff, and you think, wow, like we wouldn't deliver this on time and to a degree that the client's happy with without this guy's input. I mean, certainly on some of the car stuff I've worked on in the last year or two, the art directors on that just really know their stuff, and they don't, you know, they speak clearly and plainly, and they know what they're talking about, and they clearly come from a place of like lots of experience. So there are just sadly those handful of individuals out there that just they really kind of buy into this. You know, they want like I don't know, the scarf around the neck, and I don't know, just kind of, it's almost like a lifestyle thing, and I don't know, just it's either tell me plainly or show me like a mood board. I'm a visual person as well. Show me what you want.
So John, the opposite, what are some things that make your life as a retoucher easier or more pleasant, more efficient, happier, things that happen on set, or just parts of the process that make a retoucher's life better and easier?
It doesn't matter how senior you are. If you've been looking at the same thing for hours, you know, getting sort of colleagues, working around colleagues that are happy to kind of give you their input, and vice versa, they ask your input and stuff. So that's I think that really helps to make for a nice working environment and for a productive studio and a productive team. And yeah, I mean, in terms of what can be done on set, I mean, I'm sure we saw a lot of the same sort of problems working in ecom, where it's like keeping the set, you know, trying to kind of implore photographers to kind of do certain things on set, like keeping the set sort of clean. You know, if the moment a set starts to get really grubby, I mean, that's all stuff that we're going to have to clean up. So please, if you can give the backdrop like a coat of paint, that's just going to save retouch a ton of time. So, but I suppose that again, that all just comes down to good communication between teams and building good relationships and stuff. So, and I think in terms of what some people could do to help themselves, I don't know how you feel about this, Rob, but I'm sure over the years you've seen many people that kind of, to them, they're happy to just kind of come in, stick some headphones on and just work through the day. And they don't talk much. They don't kind of get involved with discussions too much. They're just, and I think if that's what you want to do and you're happy to do that, then great. But I think the chances are when it comes time to kind of getting promotions or being considered for kind of extra responsibility, it's normally the people that don't do that. It's the people that kind of engage with everybody else, and the people that are coming in and being enthusiastic and sharing their advice. If for you want to come in and stick headphones on and work all day with headphones on and listen to audiobooks and whatever else, and you're happy doing that, then great, more power to you. But I think don't then be surprised when you get overlooked for some additional responsibility and maybe later down the line overlooked for promotions, because I don't think that's really like a good route to progression.
How do you feel about the fantasy aspect? Like what we're doing is creating fantasy in a way, and the viewers of our work are hopefully buying into this fantasy, and like you're talking about earlier, like retouching close-up hair and getting rid of like realistic flyaway, and just making it into, in some ways, a fantasy.
Yeah, like an idealized, kind of version.
Yeah. How do you feel? Are you okay with, like, I don't know, how do you feel about that?
I certainly think there's been a sea change kind of in the last maybe 5-10 years in the industry, and there was absolutely like a point where there was a bit of a spotlight shone on over retouching, and especially like during the kind of whole size zero kind of time when kind of models were very size zero and stuff. And I'm personally really glad that we've moved away from that, and that studios, art directors, retouchers, photographers, the industry seems to be taking a lot more responsibility of that, and realizing, of course, we want to do everything we can to mitigate people experiencing, bad, negative body image, particularly young people. Of course, we don't want anybody, we want to mitigate that as much as we can. But body dysphoria, negative kind of self-image, negative body image. I'm really glad that we seem to have, the industry has taken some responsibility there, and we've moved away from, I'm sure there's still work to be done. I'm sure there's still further we can go, but I certainly noticed changes. I remember at the time, again, I think I might have been at Shoemaker's Elves, and we were working on some lingerie shots, and we were told specifically, you are not to touch this model's physical shape. You're not to touch her body, other than the specific, maybe, I don't know, like if her arms maybe like a bit paler compared to her neck or something like that. Those are the kind of things we balance up. But if you're going to do any liquefying, if you're going to pull any shape, you're allowed to move contours out. So say, for example, there's just a bit of an unflattering angle, and actually popping the shoulder up a bit might just look a bit more flattering. They would say, with using judgment, you're allowed to kind of make changes to shape someone outwards, but at no point are you to slim someone's waist or do anything like that. And I think that was a fantastic kind of change for the better. So I guess there's always going to be that balance that we need to strike between, of course, to sell stuff, we all know it, to sell stuff, you need to kind of beautify it to a degree, whether that's, the moment that you get a model in and you're shining a particular set of lights on the model and you're doing the hair and makeup, you're kind of idealizing someone anyway in that kind of scenario. Most people aren't walking around with having had, someone doing their hair and makeup every time they walk out on the street, or they're certainly not walking around with studio lighting sort of surrounding them. So in a way, already at the photography stage, we're kind of idealizing already. So of course, as retouchers, we need to then take responsibility as well and make sure that we're not creating a complete fantasy. We are selling something that's kind of real and something that isn't potentially dangerous and damaging.
Who sees the work once it goes out into the world? Who's the audience for the images that you work on?
For the year and a half that I was at Shoemaker's Elves, and we were doing a lot of beauty and fashion related sort of work, it would be, we would know, this is going to be in Marie Claire, or this is going to be in Harper's Bazaar. In more recent months, as I've been doing the car stuff, we did actually finish a job, and someone sent me the link to like to the brand's website, and they said, like our images are all up on their homepage and stuff. So that was nice, again, just seeing sort of stuff that it felt like I'd just finished it, and like a week later it was bang, it was all there on their, nicely laid out on their website. So I guess it varies a lot. I've worked on stuff over the years that's sometimes the output's web, sometimes it's is it like, what do they call it, above the line advertising, where it's like on TV. Some stuff I've seen on TV. There was one time actually I worked on, I think it was like a gin brand, and it's just a super nice shot, and it was like really vibrant. I think it was like a pink background and like the glass and a really long shadow, and it was like really sparkling. And I went to, because my dad's from Naples in Italy, and I went with him to visit family in Naples, and we got on the metro, and I just saw it on a big screen, like the shot that I'd been working on, in London. I saw, the following week or a few weeks later in Naples in Italy, which was just a buzz to think, just people in this other country just walking past something that I retouched. It's always like a nice feeling, I think.
I find it really cool. Like, wow, there's people in other countries and just 100,000 millions of people looking at my work. Like I find that cool.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about maybe a retouching project or an accomplishment that you're proud of?
I think it must have been probably the very first advertising job I worked on, and it was for an airline, and probably first exposure to some CGI. I don't even think I was learning CGI at this point, but it was a job for an airline, and the passengers that were going to be on the airline had all been shot in a studio, and the plane cabin itself had been rendered in CGI. Really nice shots, like again super high res. I think they were going to be going on billboards in airports and stuff, and all the passengers, as I said, were shot in the studio, and they all had to be comped in to this CGI render of a cabin, and then it obviously all had to be graded, and we had to add in this depth of field and stuff. So as it went further down the cabin, it was getting sort of softer focus, and we were adding in lens flares coming in through the cabin window, and so I guess I felt proud because I mean, obviously it was kind of overwhelming, because it was, you know, going from kind of working on e-com stuff where you're just really confident, really know what you're doing, and to suddenly, you know, being in an environment where you're working on something that you've actually got weeks maybe to work on this one shot, and there's a lot. I still see that. I've actually seen that not long ago when I looked at a PDF portfolio that I've got, and I actually still thought it looked pretty good, considering it's like 5+ years old. But I mean, I think that's more of a testament to the senior retoucher that was kind of helping me through it and stuff, you know. So I very much had lots of support in working on that. So but yeah, I still look at that and think, yeah, that was just felt like this massive step forward for me when I worked on that. And I think I learned a bunch from that one project. So yeah, I think that's something I was quite proud of. And one of the shots from that campaign I saw in an airport, which again was just a nice bonus as well, to kind of see kind of where it would end up. So
that's great. Do you have, and so, hey, we're retouchers, we work hard, we're in the dimly lit room, you know, just working away. But we also like to have fun. So do you have any funny memories from retouching so far?
I definitely have loads of really nice memories from Net-a-Porter, and I think I probably won't ever get to work with such a big team again. I mean, everywhere I've worked since then, it's been way smaller teams, but there's like a magic that happens when you're working in like a really big team like that, and we were all very close and stuff, and there'd be a lot of we sort of use retouching for a lot of mischief as well. So yeah, we'd have a lot of fun. We'd have like our own, you know, you'd have the retouch team email, so you'd be able to kind of email just kind of within the department, and it'd be all kind of just funny emails, you know, flying around and stuff. And someone would maybe be on vacation somewhere, and they'd send the team a holiday snap from where they were on a beach, and we just go in there and retouch it to look like it was, you know, grey and raining, and there was like a dog taking a dump or something in the shot. Just turn it from like a nice beach scene into just something just like out of a nightmare. Or I went through this phase. This is going to sound like so childish, but there was a point where people would be sending around shots of like their pets. So that someone would send around, oh, this is my dog, or this is my cat, and I would just take the shot and just go in and retouch it to look as though the animal was like baring its teeth and like as if it was about to bite or something. Just really just inane kind of stupid. It's just the kind of stuff that just makes the day go by, and sort of silly stuff like that. And I'm sure you probably experienced this as well, Rob. But as a retoucher, you can all make the best like custom birthday cards for one another and stuff, and going away cards. Because you can kind of get in there and take some nice old pictures of someone and just do something really bespoke to their interests and stuff. I've still probably got a stack of cards I've been given over the years that I would never throw away, just because they're just really sentimental value. They really mean a lot to me and stuff. So yeah, those are some of the nice memories I have.
John, where do you see our industry heading in the future?
I'm hoping Retouch continues to evolve to be conscious of, not trying to completely publish fantasy action, staying true to real life, and being conscious of not putting undue pressure on people to look or feel that they need to look a certain way. So I guess maybe in terms of change, maybe there's still work to be done there. I guess I'd say to anyone that wants to, even with what's happened this year, and even though it's been, it's an understatement to say it's been a tough ride for so many people all around the world, but In terms of retouching, I'd say it's probably still a really good time to get into the, because we can't get away from the fact that more and more business is done online. Our media is more image dominated and image rich than probably it's ever been. And with all of that imagery, you need post-production, and that's where we step in as retouchers. So even though right now at this very moment in time, there might be sort of slightly less opportunity, but I think going forward, it's still an ever-growing and rich industry, and absolutely something that I think people can get into and have a really sort of satisfying career doing. So in terms of CGI seems to be something that moves at like a really breakneck pace. So there's kind of always new softwares, and whereas it just seems like Photoshop's like old faithful when it comes to retouching. It's like what other tool is ever going to come along? And you have occasionally, I think there's a couple of tools which are kind of direct competitors to Photoshop, but yeah, personally I don't see Photoshop itself going anywhere or changing too dramatically, because it does what it does like really well. So
how do you feel about these companies that come along and it's like AI and you just drop your images in and the computer just does all the retouching, and retouchers are going to be obsolete, and AI, automation. Look, we have the magic silver bullet, and companies will save so many millions of dollars. You won't even need to have retouching teams. And can you speak to the reality of that?
I mean, look at the whole thing that's happened with automotive, for example. There was a point where cars were always photographed, and now we're getting to a point now where cars are probably very rarely photographed, purely because it's probably people have realized it's really cost saving to kind of do it in CGI. So then I guess if you happen to have been a car photographer before, you probably feel really hard done by as a result of that kind of that sort of change happening within the industry. But I tend to see things more of it's like an additional tool set. I don't, whenever somebody says, yeah, we're not going to need retouches, it's like, well, I always think, especially when it comes to photographing people, when you photograph a person, particularly portraiture, when it's an athlete or a celebrity or a royalty, whatever it is, somebody photographs a person, you absolutely need another human being to come in and work on those images. You can't, surely an AI isn't going to come in and say, yeah, we're going to give it the cleanup that it needs, but we're going to keep the characteristics of the person. It's like, I think you need somebody that's spent years kind of honing their skill, and somebody that's got kind of the eye for, to know what they're looking for and to know what to keep and what to tweak and what to, alter and stuff. So I don't know, I guess I suppose there's always going to be parts of an industry that are in some way under threat by emerging technologies. I mean, I don't know if you ever saw that thing was it style shoots, the thing that kind of came out of nowhere, and it seemed to almost replace the need to have indexes kind of shot by a team, because you could kind of have this scanner kind of do it. And it's okay, that's an additional tool set, and I suppose it might mean that you lose some photographers from that side of it. But I don't, in a lot of these cases, I think it's like new technology emerges. How can we find ways where it kind of fits in? And let's not forget, these new technologies normally produce jobs as well. So I think, yeah, I mean, we certainly should always be open to kind of building on skills and reskilling if we need to, or transitioning, so I don't see it as doom and gloom. Absolutely not. I don't think it's like anyone needs to think, oh my god, my job is going to be gone like tomorrow. Yeah, I guess I always see it as kind of this it's this kind of additional tools and stuff, and they all kind of somehow dovetail and interlock, rather than overnight, right, you're extinct, you're kind of, you're done for. I don't necessarily see it like that. So
John, what do you envision for your own future?
It's a tough one. I guess because I haven't been freelancing too long. I haven't even been freelancing a year yet. So I still feel like I've got a long way to go in terms of, I guess developing like a solid client base. And yeah, I mean, really, I really need to kind of get a website together now. This is just getting silly now. But so yeah, I guess just in the immediate future, just continuing to kind of work away at that. Hopefully keeping the clients that I already have happy, and hopefully, potentially meeting some like new and interesting clients to work with. And it's just super important for me to just keep that variety. And as I was saying earlier, I do get restless if I'm working on the same kind of thing over and over again for a matter of months. I get really restless, and I just want to mix it up and work on something different. So I'd like to definitely keep trying to take on more CGI stuff, hopefully alternate it with retouch stuff, continue to kind of learn the new softwares that sort of interest me.
John, any final thoughts or in closing, any advice or just anything that I didn't think of?
No, I mean, I guess just, try and be as kind of proactive as you can. If you're having no luck with applying for companies, then why not, as speaking to retouching, why not just go through, go online and just have a look at different photographers that you like, maybe people that you could work with, people whose work interests you, and just email them directly and say, hi, my name's such and such, I'm learning to retouch. I would, is there any? I'd love to get a chance to work on some of your, even if it's a job that you did ages ago, and I just like, that kind of, if you have a friend of mine who calls it like the funnel kind of, the funnel effect, if you want to have opportunities to trickle out the bottom, you need to just pour loads and loads of stuff into the top of the funnel. If you reach out to just tons of different people, chances are somebody will come back to you. And you never know, that person who comes back to you might be someone you end up working with for the rest of your career. So, and not hearing back from someone that you've applied to, or not hearing, or worse yet, getting a no, it always sucks. It doesn't matter what age you are, getting a no is always going to suck, But I think the key is to just think, all right, well, that opportunity didn't work out. I'm going to just go and find and create some more opportunities. So even with the horrible circumstances of this year so far, you can still create and find and generate, opportunities, and get in, and find a way into, and it might be just a really funky way into the industry that you might find like just a little side road in, but there are roads in,
Yeah, one of the good things about photo retouching is that there are so many different avenues. There isn't just one path. Like, I want to be a doctor, I go to medical school, I'm a resident, no, retouching, this is why, hey, on Adventures in Retouching, I'm talking to so many different people, because there are so many different paths, there are so many different backgrounds and ways in, and retouchers find a way in from all different ways. So yeah, I agree. That's great advice.
Absolutely, yeah. And I guess just to sort of add to that, if you didn't mind, Rob, just one last thing I'd say, and I'm sure maybe you've seen it as well over the years, but I've seen lots of people who started out as a retoucher and then actually figured out there was something else they were quite interested in, and retouching has actually been a lateral move for them, which has been fascinating to see. I've seen a couple of guys over the years move from where they got really fascinated with the technical side of retouching, like the scripting and the actions. I've seen people move into like coding and development, or move into desktop support and IT. I've seen people go from being a retoucher to being a designer, from a retoucher to being a photographer, and vice versa. I've seen photographers move into retouching. So I think it can be, it might not necessarily be something that you start doing and that you think, I want to do this for the rest of my career, but it can almost be an opportunity to maybe sort of make a lateral move into something else as well. So because you have the artistic and the technical sides of it, they can sort of lead off to other interesting sort of avenues as well.
So John, I know you don't have a website yet, but where can people find you online, or maybe see work, or just get in touch with you?
At the moment, I'm ashamed to say, I think the only place that I exist online is on LinkedIn. So I have a LinkedIn profile that's active, and I will be back on Instagram at some point. I decided to have like a bit of a social media detox, but I do have a Instagram page, and it's Return to Render, and the 2 is a number 2, so Return to Render, where I was in the habit of kind of posting just personal work, just personal CGI sort of renders and stuff. And I do plan to kind of reactivate that account at some point soon, because I would like to start posting some new work on there, maybe in the next sort of few, I guess, weeks, months. That'll be back, yeah.
Well, John, thank you so much. It's an honor. It's a pleasure to get to speak with you, and thank you for sharing your knowledge and your advice. This has been Adventures in Retouching. Just go to YouTube, search Adventures in Retouching. Do me a favor, like, subscribe. It's YouTube. You know what to do. Leave comments. Get in touch with me. You can go on the YouTube channel. You can go on adventuresinretouching.com. So thank you again. Thanks for stopping by. I'm Robbie Caterino. We'll see you soon. Thank you so much.